Under the blinding lights of the Bell Center in Montreal, two destinies collided. The air was thick with tension, a sense that something violent, something historic, was about to unfold. In the red corner stood Artur Beterbiev, the Russian destroyer, undefeated, untouchable, a champion with 100% knockout ratio. In the blue corner, Marcus Browne, the slick southpaw from Staten Island, a man looking to rewrite his story and shock the world. The ring wasn't just a square of canvas tonight. It was a battlefield where only one would survive. As the bell echoed for round one, Browne danced lightly, gliding around the ring with confidence. His jab snapped sharply, finding the champion's guard again and again. Beterbiev, composed and methodical, stalked forward with cold precision. He didn't chase, he calculated. His jab, heavy as steel, cut through space like a hammer testing the walls of Browne's defense. The American's footwork was smooth, his southpaw angles clever, and for the opening rounds he was having moments of success. But anyone who'd studied Beterbiev knew he wasn't a man who panicked. He was a man who waited for his moment, and when that moment came, he never missed. The sound of each punch echoed through the arena, each second drawing them closer to chaos. The crowd could feel it. The storm hadn't yet begun, but the wind had started to howl. The first two rounds were tactical, tense, and layered with respect. Yet beneath it all, everyone watching could sense that something brutal was building. This was not going to be a boxing match for long. It was going to become a war. Round 3 began with Browne still circling, his jab flicking out to control distance. But then, in a sudden clash of movement, crack! The two men's heads collided. The sound alone drew gasps from the crowd. When they separated, horror filled the arena. A deep, ugly gash had split open across Beterbiev's forehead, and blood immediately began pouring down his face, blinding his vision. The referee paused the action. The doctor leaned in, and for a moment, it felt like disaster loomed. Would the champion be stopped by injury? Would his reign end not by power, but by blood? But Beterbiev didn't even flinch. He nodded to continue. When the bell resumed the fight, the atmosphere changed completely. The Russian was now fighting with fury. Blood streamed into his eyes, painting his face crimson, yet he advanced as if nothing else existed. His punches came heavier, sharper, meaner. The crowd erupted with each thunderous shot that landed. Browne tried to counter with speed, but every time he touched the champion, he got touched back twice as hard. This was no longer a boxing match. This was a blood-soaked test of will. The crimson stain on Beterbiev's chest made him look almost mythical, like a warrior from another time. Every blow he landed seemed to echo off the walls. Browne's face began to show strain, his perfect rhythm breaking under the pressure. The round ended with Beterbiev standing center ring, drenched in blood, but unbroken, staring through his opponent like a predator who had finally caught the scent. The message was clear. The champion was hurt. By round 5, the tide had fully turned. Browne's movement had slowed, his control slipping away. Beterbiev, bleeding but relentless, stalked forward with an unholy calm. Each step was measured, each jab a message. The champion was now hunting. Browne's earlier sharpness couldn't keep him safe anymore. The Russian's power began to echo in every exchange, his gloves thudding like iron fists on wood. Then came the turning point. Midway through round 6, Beterbiev unleashed a terrifying combination. A stiff jab, followed by a crushing right hand, then a left to the ribs that folded Browne in half. The crowd erupted. Browne backed away, trying to reset, but Beterbiev smelled blood, both his own and his opponent's. His attack grew more systematic. He cornered Browne, trapped him along the ropes, and fired short, brutal hooks to the body and head. Every punch carried the weight of vengeance. The champion wasn't fighting to win anymore. He was fighting to destroy. Browne fired back out of desperation, landing occasional counters, but each one only seemed to feed Beterbiev's rage. Between rounds, his corner wiped blood from his eyes, but he didn't blink. His only words, "I see him." That quiet statement echoed louder than any roar. The fans were standing now, sensing the incoming storm. Browne had fought bravely, but the machine in front of him wasn't slowing. This wasn't just a comeback. It was the awakening of a beast. And in Montreal that night, Artur Beterbiev reminded the world why power is feared, but heart is immortal. Round 7 began with silence in the crowd, the kind of silence that comes before an explosion. Browne looked weary. His legs, once full of spring, now stumbled under the constant pressure. Beterbiev, covered in blood, walked through punches like they were whispers. His composure was chilling. The champion didn't waste motion. He didn't rush. He simply broke his opponent, piece by piece. Browne tried to hold his ground, firing combinations, but the Russian's gloves met him with ruthless precision. A jab snapped his head back. A right hand bent him sideways. Then a body shot sank deep, stealing his breath. The fans roared. The ropes groaned, and Browne's will began to bend. He was fighting on instinct now, not to win, but to survive. Every second that passed felt longer. The crowd in Montreal could feel the finish coming. Beterbiev's control was absolute. His punches, though fewer, carried destruction in each impact. Browne's face was swollen, his movement fading, his breathing heavy. The referee watched closely. The ending was near. When the round finally closed, Browne staggered back to his corner, eyes distant, spirit dimming. Across the ring, Beterbiev sat on his stool, chest heaving, blood still dripping, but calm as stone. His trainer said nothing. They both knew the truth. One more round, and it would all be over. The executioner's final act was ready. Round 9. The final storm. The bell rang, and Beterbiev stepped forward, with the certainty of a man who already knew the outcome. Browne fired one last, desperate flurry, but his punches bounced off armor. Then came the first bomb, a right hand to the temple that shook Browne's balance, followed by a body shot so brutal it sent him crashing to one knee. The crowd roared as the referee began to count. Browne rose, his heart refusing to quit, but his body was done. Beterbiev didn't waste time. He closed in, landing a combination that ended with a left hook to the liver. Browne collapsed again, the pain written across his face. The referee waved it off. TKO victory for Artur Beterbiev. The crowd erupted in chaos and admiration. The blood, the war, the heart, it was all there. As Beterbiev raised his hands, his face still smeared with crimson, it was a picture of raw glory. He hadn't just defended his title. He'd proven what separates champions from men: the willingness to walk through hell and keep moving forward. Browne had fought bravely, but that night he stood across from a force of nature. Artur Beterbiev left the ring a winner, a warrior, and a legend. His record stayed perfect, his aura unbreakable, and his story another chapter written in blood, courage, and the unyielding power of a man who refuses to fall.